This is exemplified in a very beautiful Shanti mantra that we chant, very famous Shanti mantra that is chanted in all temples. Swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Very famous last line, may all the world be happy. Why? Because may there be well-being in the people. Swasti prajabhyah. How will there be well-being in the people? May the kings, when the kings and they rule the earth following the ways of justice and dharma, when they get this knowledge, they will follow the ways of justice and dharma. May the cattle was considered great wealth in those days, Vedic times. So also, go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam, these brahmanas, the teachers of society, let them also be well, let them be good in their life, let them have healthy, peaceful life. And may all the beings in all the worlds be happy. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Very beautiful prayer that is chanted actually in every temple worship. Why? Because even there, Vedic life recognizes that these two people, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, are very, very important to keep societies going. So the Brahmana lineage we saw also is the Sanat Kumars. They're given these eternal celibates, very, very young rishis. They were traveling all over all the spiritual realms as well as the material world, and they had only the urge to teach. So they were given this knowledge, the Vedic knowledge, the Vedanta knowledge by Bhagavan himself as well. And of course, they passed it down to everybody else as well. So he says, Krishna is quoting the Kshatriya Parampara because here, both the teacher and the student belong to that parampara. So in this particular Gita text, he is taking up the Kshatriya Parampara. I was the one, he says, I was the one who initiated this tradition, but he says, Sakale neha mahata yogo nashtaha. What has happened? Because of the long lapse of time and because of the dullness of intellect, those days the intellect was very bright and sharp. Over time, what has happened? Intellect has become dull. We think we have become even more greater because of technology and everything. In fact, technology has increased our dullness. Even a child now will, those days, calculations, even the time when I was young, calculations had to be done, mentally. Everything was done mentally. Very, very infrequently, we had to turn to calculator. Now what? Every child has a mobile phone, calculator, always some dependence on some technology for anything, and no thinking is there. The whole society doesn't encourage your buddhi, your intellect to think. And this is exactly what Bhagavan is saying here. Because of this lapse of time, even though we have evolved technologically in other realms, we have not evolved intellectually. Those intellects of those past, great intellectual rishis of the past, what happened? That's all died down now. It has become dull. And for that reason, he says, Mahata yoga nashtaha. This yoga is slowly diminishing. Can you imagine 5,000 years ago, Bhagavan said this, 5,000, can you imagine how much more it's diminished now after 5,000 years? So when any teaching passes on from generation to generation, the original message may get distorted or may not be, conveyed. In this, of course, it is not distorted or in any way because it is conveyed properly. But the people who it is conveyed to, that is what Bhagavan is saying. They are not ready. They have not been ready. So even though this knowledge has been there over the passage of time, it has been given to people who are not truly ready. And that creates some kind of distortion. They take it in their own way. They do their own thing with it. So this is what one of the commentators for this verse actually says. This distortion of this knowledge, given to the wrong people, is because people becoming more materialistic throughout the ages. They become more materialistic and more extroverted, more interested in fulfilling desires. So what we have to understand from what Bhagavan is saying is that this knowledge is not easily available. It is not readily available. Duryodhana had access to this knowledge. Dhritarashtra had access to this knowledge. Kauravas had access to this knowledge. But what was the problem? No interest to gain it. What's the point of having Krishna as a teacher when you don't have interest to gain it? Even though they had more than, not just Bhagavan, they had so many teachers in those days, but the interest was not there. So the teaching lineage somehow for some people has been broken, Bhagavan says, in some way, and knowledge has stopped flowing properly in that avenue. Why? Because this knowledge is not popular. People are not interested. Generally, value is not seen because other things drag out. So Bhagavan is saying, I'm renewing it through Bhagavad Gita. That is what he's saying. I am here to renew this knowledge again, give this Gita to you as a teaching to bring this knowledge back to life. And he uses a word here for Arjuna, a very beautiful word, parantapaha. Parantapa, he calls him parantapa, which means paraha are people who are inimical to you, against you in your life. So by your own courage, your own skill, and your own brilliance, like the sun, tapayati, you scorch the enemies. He's a scorcher of foes, scorcher of enemies. Shatrun tapayati iti parantapaha. So they cannot stand Arjuna's light. That is the name that Bhagavan gives to Krishna. Bhagavan gives to Arjuna, a very beautiful name. So what he's saying, this knowledge requires a certain adhikaritvam, certain preparedness, certain mentality, and the rareness of getting it is highlighted here. First thing, what do you need to have? Atma bhalam. Atma bhalam, self-strength, inner strength. You cannot get distracted by indriyas, always sense pursuit, sense pursuit. This is why Bhagavad Gita, we saw in the 3rd chapter also, becomes a sense management text. He brings it up again and again in the chapters, the importance of curbing the sensual pleasures. Because the more I go after senses, the less I have of me left for my own pursuits. So he says, don't go after fancies. Don't go after all of this. This is why the knowledge has become diluted, because reaching such people, this yoga is not going to work. It has been given, in the past to people who are not very interested in moksha. If you're not interested in moksha, that person is not going to hand it over to somebody else, right? So Bhagavan says that is how it is going to go. But I'm making sure it is not going to go because I'm giving it in the form of the Gita. Therefore, O Arjuna, you belong to a wonderful parampara from my parampara. Do not waste this opportunity to gain this knowledge. Do not waste it, he tells Arjuna. Now, Arjuna has a doubt. As we all know, he doubts quite a lot. And his doubts are very nice doubts because they're doubts that always give some more teaching. So it's a very rudimentary doubt. But he asks, how can you, O Lord Krishna, my best friend now teacher, have provided this knowledge to son? You were born just a few years before me. How can you have given the son the knowledge? Now, why did Arjuna ask this question? He asked the question because he wants the world to know who Krishna really is. He knows who Krishna is. He knows he's Bhagavan. He knows he was there right at the beginning of creation. He knows he's the timeless entity, but that question specifically asked because Bhagavan reveals his true reality as Lord Krishna, not Avatara, not as the human form Krishna. Bhagavan reveals in this chapter his true reality. But before that, the Bhagavan explains now in the next verse the need to resurrect this knowledge, ancient knowledge. In the next verse, he says, Sa evayam maya tedya yogaf proktaf puratanaha bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam kyetaduttamam. He begins by stating this knowledge comes from teacher to student. Sa evayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha. This yoga is told by me. What kind of yoga? Puratanaha. It is ancient, old. Cannot even date it. You can't carbon date. You can't do any dating to it. It is ancient. It is old. It has been told by me to Vivaswan at the beginning of creation. And what is this yoga? He says, Rahasyam hyetaduttamam. It is the greatest secret. It is Rahasyam. Why is it secret? So many Bhagavad Gita copies are there. People are handing them out on the streets as well. Not such a big secret. Everybody has so many Bhagavad Gitas. We can get them in the net as well. But it is a secret, this yoga. Why is it secret? Because however much secret means in Shastra, when we hear the word secret, it means However, many times we hear it, we don't understand it. That is the secret. That is why it remains a secret. Swami Chinmayananda actually said this when he was criticized for giving Vedanta knowledge to the public. People said, generally what happens in the tradition, in the ancient traditions, old people who are very, very traditional, the teachers, they will not give this knowledge. They will test who is ready for this knowledge. The mattas, if you see Sringeri, Kanchi, the very traditional mats, they will only give this Brahma Vidya to 2-3 brahmacharis they see. And that is after years. These brahmacharis are brought up in the Gurukula. They learn Sanskrit. They go through all the strenuous prayer, the processes of, this worship, all of that, trained very well. The Guru will pick, he will be watching all through their life, their growing up period in the Gurukula, who's ready for this knowledge, and he will know. He will pick 2 or 3 that he will give that knowledge to. But we are not, it's a different time now. And thanks to Swami Chinmayananda, really, who brought Vedanta to public. He made it public. He went and gave Vedanta discourses in the public and was heavily criticized by some very traditional Swamis. But he said his response was that even if I speak to thousands of people, it will still remain secret. There will only be probably one or 2 that understand what I'm saying. So don't worry, it's going to remain secret. So this is what Bhagavan is saying here. Rahasyam hetad uttamam. All these years, I did not give it to you either. All these years, Arjuna and Krishna have known each other for so many years. But why didn't Krishna give it to him? It is uttamam. It is the highest knowledge. It is sacred and secret, but given to only Adhikari. Why did he not give it to Arjuna? Because he says, he doesn't say, I am saying, Krishna would have told Arjuna, if Arjuna had asked, why didn't you give it to me? I knew it for so many years. Why didn't you give it to me? Because you never said, I am your Shishya. You didn't tell me in the first chapter, I'm your Shishya. When you said, Shishyaste ham shamam tvam prapannam, I know you are ready for this knowledge. That is the amazing thing about this teaching. It has to be asked for. When it is asked for, it is given. Generally, it is not given. Asked for meaning these days we give it, but people who are very serious, they ask for it. They come back. That is asking as well. As soon as this is said, I am your Shishya, Shishyaste ham shadi mam tvam prapannam. As soon as that line was said, what happens? Whole Krishna's attitude in the Bhagavad Gita, his role shifts. What from friend, mainly friend, or teacher. He becomes Arjuna's teacher. And the teacher and the teaching take over Arjuna's life. They consume Arjuna's life. They take over Arjuna's life. And what does taking over Arjuna's life mean? It means his ahankara is suspended. He gives the benefit of doubt to the teacher. The teacher knows better. I am helpless. He says, Dharma sammuda chetaha. I am confused. I don't know what to do with my life. Oh Lord, you have to guide me. I cannot live my life the way I'm living. I don't know. That is when the ahankara finally, that egoic sense of I says, oh Lord, I bow. You are like Ishvara for me. I bow. You know better. What you say is for my own growth. So this is what happened in Arjuna's mind. And when that shift happened, what did Bhagavan do? Smilingly, he began the teaching. He said, Ashochan Anvashochastvam, the first verse in the second chapter where he started the teaching. And why did Bhagavan choose Arjuna to give this knowledge to? He says in this verse, Bhakto si me sakha cheti. Oh Arjuna, you are my devotee as well as my friend. You are my devotee and friend. There's 2 in 1 here. So Bhagavan, Krishna, very affectionately tells Arjuna that he regards him as a devotee and a friend, which means what? You are fit and capable to receive this supreme truth, this knowledge from my lips. What is a friend? When we examine what is friendship actually? A friend is somebody you can trust. If you can't trust, they're not a friend. Someone there who is in times of need and trouble for you. A friend in need is a friend indeed. We know that proverb. Friend is somebody that you can rely on, you can trust. Krishna was this for Arjuna. He always turned to him in times of trouble. In the first chapter, being a Kshatriya, very proud, Kshatriya clan, Kshatriya race by nature, they're very proud. they are not very emotional. They should not, they have this, should not show emotion, all of this. They're the warrior class. But what did he do in the first chapter? He cried his heart out. He showed in front of Bhagavan his deepest fears, his feelings. It is very unusual for a Kshatriya person. But why did he do that? Because Krishna was his friend. He did it because Krishna was his friend. He could confide in Krishna. He trusted Krishna. Arjuna also had the courage to ask any doubts to Krishna without any fear of reprimand. And because he asked his doubts, he got a clear understanding of the teaching. So asking doubts, we have to be very clear, is different from questioning what the teacher said. He never questioned. There is a way even to ask the question, and Arjuna shows this again and again, the way he asked the question. Chapter 3, he says, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me. Very important, that line actually, because he says, buddhim mohayasiva me. He doesn't say, you are confusing me, Krishna. Come on, you're telling me Jnana Yoga is the best, but you're saying, go and fight this war. You are totally confusing me. He never talks to Bhagavan like that. He says, you are as though speaking contradictory words. You can see the way he speaks to Krishna. He knows that what Bhagavan is saying is correct, but he's not understanding properly. So using that language, as though speaking contradictory words, but please clarify for me, because I don't really understand what you're saying, but I know it is the right thing. So that is the type of attitude he has towards Bhagavan. And Sakyam is the other. Sakyam is the Sanskrit words for friend, is near at the top of the list of the Navavidha Bhakti, or the types of devotion. This is how devotion and the friendship are related. There are 9 forms of devotion that are talked about in Srimad Bhagavata text. And the Sakyam, the friendship, is on the top of, near the top of the list of this Navavidha Bhakti. What are the 9 forms? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So Sakyam, I won't go through all the 9 here now, but Sakyam means developing friendship with the Lord. Developing the friendship with the Lord is the penultimate stage of devotion. And that friendship culminates in what? Atmanivedanam, total self-surrender, total surrender of oneself to the Lord. That ego finally says, there's no me anymore, there's only you. Everything that happens is only you. That is Atmanivedanam, that ego surrenders in, and that is only knowledge that it can do that. So this is why Arjuna becomes Adhikari, prime Adhikari for this knowledge. Bhagavan himself says, you are my friend, you are my devotee, and he gives him the knowledge.